Welcome, everybody, to another session of Quick Fix Golf on our Wednesday night webinars at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And tonight we have a very special guest. Not only do we have my partner in crime here, Darren DeMaile, PGA Pro extraordinaire, but we have the man, the legend when it comes to golf balls, and the golf ball is probably the one piece of equipment that people don't pay enough attention to, Dean Snell of Snell Golf. And I've got the Snell Golf website up here. And Dean, welcome to the gang, buddy.
Well, thanks for having me. I know we've been trying to connect, so I appreciate your patience.
I notice a Boston accent there.
Yeah, I'm total masshole, so
well,
it is what it is.
Well,
and I just want to mention that I think the Red Sox might have won the World Series, but in case anybody didn't know that.
I was just gonna say that it was obvious the best team won, and I take my hat off to you. They definitely played some great baseball. They some great hustle. They never lost their nerve. They hung in there. They did a great job.
Yeah, they were a good team this year. They've been solid, for fans here all season and fun to watch. So I'm glad for them. Sometimes in sports the best team plays great all season and then they get to the playoffs and struggle a little bit. But I was glad that they were able to run it through. Today they had a big parade here in Boston and big celebration and. Now we're ready for the Patriots to win next.
Oh crap! Now you're making me.
Interview's over.
I'm from Miami, so we don't like you guys.
Oh boy. Oh, sorry for that.
No, I tell you what. And same thing goes for New England. I take my hat off. You got a great owner. You got a great coach. And you got a great quarterback. I mean, how are you going to beat that combination? It's just Belichick's terrific. He really is. I mean. Yeah. So anyway.
Very fortunate. Boston fans have been very fortunate with the Red Sox, Patriots, and the Bruins and Celtics sneak one in once in a while, but the Patriots and Red Sox have been very good for Boston fans and keep us on our toes. Good stuff.
Okay, let me just dry my eyes off because I've been crying after you mentioned the Patriots. Poor Darren is a Jets fan.
Oh my God, he must be a big towel.
All right, so tell us about the golf ball.
The golf ball business has been great for us. I was fortunate to work in the golf industry with Titleist and Taylormade, like two of the best companies in the industry, and design golf balls for the best players in the world. So my job at both companies was actually to develop golf balls for the tour players and work with them directly one-on-one, create relationships, friendships with them. So I've been very fortunate to do that. And about 5 to 6 years ago, I left Taylormade and said, maybe I can give back to golf. It's been good to me. The big companies have been good to me, but the game was declining. Memberships were everybody was leaving. Golf course was closing. So I said, if there's something I can give back to golf, after all these years of working with the best players in the world and designing products for them, if I could design products that could be affordable and maybe the people that actually have to buy them could actually, have performance that the tour players have had, but make it affordable for them. So I started Snell Golf in 2015. We launched it, and since 2015, it's been outstanding. It's an online direct sale business. We ship free to your home in the United States, and we've launched a couple products since we started. And it's just been better than expected. Things have been great.
Well, we had Derek Sanders here last week, and Derek used to be the caddy for Gene Sowers, and we were somewhat of a team. I was working with Gene on his game, and Derek was his caddy. And Derek mentioned that he was playing a hole. They were playing with Billy Andrade, and Andrade hit a 7-iron up in the green into the wind, and all day long they were hitting it neck and neck everywhere, but into the wind. All of a sudden, Gene was 15 yards shorter. And Gene complained to Derek, said, you gave me the wrong club. And then Andrade says, no, you got the wrong ball. And turned out Gene switched to a 2013 Titleist that had a little black dot on the outside of the box. Where he was hitting a 2015. Now, evidently the 2013 spun less, so if it spins less, do you get a better shot into the wind but not as good downwind? Or
Well, it's a compromise. So the designs that you want to work, especially working with better players or players that are, especially the tour or better players that can control the spin rates. A lot of good players generate a lot of spin. So tour players have asked us for years to say, hey, can you take spin out of an 8-9 pitch and wedge, a wedge? I can't get to a back pin. When I hit, the ball will spin and come back.
Right.
So we worked hard to try to control that spin. So you don't want to try to take too much out. You want to make sure that you control the trajectory. But if you can control the spin where the ball will hit and stop, now they can shoot the back pins. So that's a big part of the design of golf balls today. The old Tour Bellata golf balls used to spin way too much. So the players would hit, they'd have to try to hit in the fringe and pull it back to a back pin. They couldn't control the spin. So we worked hard to say, hey, how do you if you can take spin out of the shot, but give it enough spin to hit and stop, but also lower spin means better control, especially into the wind, and that's exactly what you're talking about now. If you add spin into the wind, you significantly shorten the golf ball. So designing golf balls that fit certain players or certain spin rates is very important, especially at the level where players are very good and can tell differences in spins.
Darren?
Well, that's some really great insight there, and it makes a lot of sense. It really does. I've got a question, Dean. I worked for Jack Nicklaus for 7 years, and Jack has been talking about the golf ball for a long time, and it's no surprise to you. I hadn't seen Jack in a long time. I saw him last week. He was actually in Myrtle Beach. And the conversation of the golf ball came up, and what he said was that in the near future, Mike Davis, the USGA, is going to roll that ball back. Do you have any thoughts on that?
This is my 30th year in golf ball design, and about 27 of them have been, we're going to roll the golf ball back.
Right.
So it's an interesting question, and I have all respect in the world for Mr. Nicklaus. I've been on a couple of interviews on a debate side with him on the golf ball side to it. And in the beginning, it was that the golf balls today are too fast; they go too far. Well, the USGA has a speed maximum that we can submit to be legal, and that hasn't changed. So today's golf balls don't go any faster today than they did when Tour Bellatas were there in the 1990s, which is what he played. The big difference is the spin rate. So Tour Bellatas with a driver used to spin in the 4,000 RPM range, and Pinnacles used to be 2,500. So there was a big gap between two-piece golf balls and tour balls. So what's happened in the years is we've been able to design golf balls that have taken that 4,000 RPM driver spin down to 2,500. So if tour players would have played Pinnacles back in 1990, the distance would have been the same, but they didn't. They played Tour Bellata because they wanted the spin, the feel, and the control. Today, we've been able to make golf balls that have the same spin rate as the two-piece balls, not any faster in speed, but now when you get to the short game, we can add spin with the multi-layer design. So the spin and control still happens around the green, but off the tee, they're very similar to what the old two-piece golf balls used to be. So the distance factor for me is, I play a lot of golf on the weekends with friends, and there's nobody in my group that's saying, Jesus, this golf course is too short for me. I can't, I need tees to be moved back 40 yards. It doesn't happen. But the tour players, they're crazy. So when I started in golf, 1990, the PGA Tour average ball speed was 160 miles an hour. Today, these guys are hitting the ball 175 or 180 miles an hour. Now, remember, the ball speed hasn't changed. So the players today are hitting the golf ball from 160 to 180. That's 20 miles an hour faster with a golf ball that hasn't increased in speed. That's what they're able to do. So 1 mile an hour in ball speed is equivalent to 2.5 yards in distance. So just by the players being able to make the golf ball be 20 miles an hour faster, they've added 50 or 60 yards in distance because they can do that. It's not because the golf ball is faster, it's because the players can do that. It's a big difference that's happened in golf. So the distance changed. If you take a 40-yard increase in distance on the PGA Tour, my personal opinion is 10 yards would come from the ball, 10 yards would come from the driver, 10 yards would come from the player, and 10 yards would come from the agronomy. Watch Phoenix, some of the golf balls are still rolling. So there's a 25% blame for the distance yardage gained, in my opinion. 25% in 4 different categories, not one.
Wow.
So it's just not the golf ball. So now if you think about it and you say, hey, this is my pet peeve with these people that want to say, let's roll the ball back 25 yards. If you take Dustin Johnson and Fred Funk, two players that I worked very closely with, Fred Funk's ball speed was 160 miles an hour. Dustin Johnson was 180. So it's 20-mile-an-hour difference. Same clubs, same ball, just 2 different players. That's 50 yards of distance. If you want to roll the ball back 25 yards, you're not going to make Fred Funk hit the ball any closer. You're just pushing him back 50 yards. So now today's game, he can still shoot 8 and 9 irons into greens and still win. But if you push him back 50 yards, you're going to take these long hitters and they're all going to win, because now they're hitting 8 irons where everyone else is going to be hitting 4, 5, and 6 irons in. And that dispersion is much greater when you push people back than if you keep them, with 8 and 9 irons.
Huh. I've got your website up, Dean, so that the guys can see your company. And I noticed one thing I read on your site about, 6 months ago, was your ball fitting philosophy. And I do a little one-day school, and I talk about the golf ball, and it was almost as if you had a microphone and you were listening in, because I said, I don't know who this guy Dean Snell is, but he's doing the exact same thing I'm saying. And I really start with the putter and work the way back.
Yeah, it's different today. When I started in golf, and I can remember working with Phil Mickelson, Davis Love, when you remember going from Balata to professional.
Right.
So everything used to be measured drivers and 8 irons. That's all we would test. We would measure driver distance, 8 iron spin. And now today, when I work with tour players, it's a 30-yard pitch, a 60-yard pitch, a 100-yard wedge, a 120-yard wedge, a 150-yard shot. So I've done a lot of work with tour players where I'll do some prototype designs. I'll take them to them. They'll pick the one they want on the short game, and then they'll say, now make this be the distance that I need. So their performance and their short game side to it is the most important part of the game for them, and that's how they fit the golf ball. And if you're an amateur golfer, you're not gonna hit a lot of fairways. 18 handicaps miss 17 greens, so that's 17 par 3s that you have to play. So you should have some performance in the golf ball the closer you get to the green, just like the tour players want. So it's not a big difference between it, but the fitting process should be from 100 yards and in. That's where you should really test golf balls.
Well, what I try to really accent on a lot is I say, little shots within 20 yards of the green even, is knowing how that ball's going to release when it lands, and being able to predict the roll and the release, the bounce, or does it grab, does it do, to stick with one ball. Don't keep swapping balls. Find a ball you like and stick with it. So.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where your scoring zone is. When you get close to the green and you can hit that shot that checks and rolls and get up and down and save an extra shot, that's where your scoring zone is. So you're 100% right. When you get close to the green, the performance in the golf ball is the most important, and that's where you should spend more time testing golf balls to compare how they perform, head to head.
Now, Darren, you worked a lot with the TrackMan. Why don't you tell them the numbers that you've. What about when you were saying brand new balls were stickier and they spun more? Or
yeah, no, I've done a lot of research with the TrackMan and my TrackMan, and especially in the 50-yard zone. I'm telling you, I can't tell you how much time I spent with it. And people are always asking me what kind of ball should we be playing, and like you're saying there, Dean, I think you need to fit the ball around the majority of the shots you're hitting. It's not just the 14 drivers that you hit. It's the majority of the shots. And a golf ball with a premium cover is going to spin significantly more than, a ball with, a lower cost cover or sirloin cover. however you want to call it there. But
yeah, there's no question about it. And here's one of my, I'm a hockey player, and this is what makes me want to pull somebody's shirt over the head and throw a couple uppercuts. But I can't stand when manufacturers talk about swing speed and low compression golf balls, saying lower swing speed players should play low compression balls, because what that does is it forces you into they try to convince you that you need to compress the ball more, which is going to make it go further. But these lower compression two-piece golf balls don't have any spin when you get closer to the green. So if in theory they're going to tell you you're going to gain yardage, and let's say they're right, and let's say you gain 1 mile an hour and your ball speed is 140 miles per hour, you just gained 8 inches on your driver. So your 240-yard drive went 240 yards and 8 inches. Now you have to finish the hole with a golf ball that has no spin and no performance, but they've convinced you lower swing speeds need these low compression golf balls. And I'm telling you, I've done this for 30 years. It is the opposite of what's true. If you want to get better, your scoring zone is 100 yards and in. Performance around the green is what you need. And if you're buying these low compression two-piece golf balls, you're buying something that's pushing you in the opposite direction of what you need, and it's not going to help your game at all.
Dean, that's absolutely right. I mean, and it's nice to hear that, because that's what I'm saying all the time. Now, my time spent with Nicklaus, I can't tell you how many clinics I've watched him give, and somebody would always ask the question, Jack, how would I get backspin? Okay, and then Jack's answer always was, well, why would you do that? So Jack's opinion on stopping a golf ball would be with trajectory and not with spin. Do you have any thoughts on that, Dean?
I think that answer goes hand in hand. So when you play a two-piece golf ball, the trajectory is always higher. So the golf ball flies higher with less spin. The problem you get is when it slides on the face, comes off higher, the distance control is a challenge, which is why tour players don't play two-piece golf balls. They can't control when it jumps and flies with no spin how far it's going to go. So a better player is always going to want the golf ball to be lower, flatter, with more spin, and be able to control it better. So I think if you're looking to get better, the closer you get to the green, the lower you can hit the ball with a little more spin, the better control you have of the shot. And that comes from multi-layer golf balls or thinner covered urethane golf balls that will give you that short game performance that you need to get better.
Let me ask you this question about kind of some of the short game then. As you're playing the premium golf or kind of the premium cover, there's a term that I use that's called friction loft. A friend of mine, Andrew Rice, kind of came up with this terminology. And as you hit a premium ball with that kind of softer cover, the ball kind of sticks on the face a little bit longer. Do you have any kind of ratios or testing that you've done on that, on how the ball will follow more of the path versus the face angle?
Yeah, I do. So he is right on the friction side to it. What happens when the cover is softer, the golf ball, when you hit down with a wedge, the golf ball actually will roll up the face, which you don't even need grooves to do this. The grooves will take the grass out, but the face itself, when you hit down, the ball will actually roll up the face and come off lower with more spin. When you have a two-piece Sirloin golf ball, which is a little bit firmer, the ball will actually slide up the same face. So when it slides up, it comes off higher with less spin. So controlling a higher launch, less spin shot is harder to do than when the tour players will hit these little knockdowns where the ball will roll on the face. The friction side to it is one thing, but it's the sliding effect that happens when you have a two-piece Sirloin ball. When it slides up that face of a club, it flies off higher and has less spin versus coming off lower with more spin, which in my opinion, the lower it comes off with more spin, the more control you have of the shot.
All right, so and this is a selfish question then. So if you're trying to hit a shorter shot, 50 yards, somewhere around there, and you have a perfect lie, what effect does the grooves have on the shot?
Well, I've done a lot of testing on this. So the grooves on a perfect glide don't really play a big role at all. So I've done 8-iron testing and 9-iron testing with grooves and no grooves off of a perfect glide, and the spin rate hardly changes. What the grooves do is when you have grass that you're in the rough or the first cut or something, when you hit the shot, the debris actually goes into the grooves, which allows the ball to continue to roll on the face instead of slide up the face. So if you have no grooves and you have grass in between the ball's going to now slide up the face, go higher with less spin. So the grooves, their role is really to take the dirt, grass, debris into the groove so the ball can stay on the face and continue to, which is why when you're in the rough where the grass is thicker, those grooves can't take all that grass that's there, which is why you have the flyers or the balls that jump. That's the reason why it happens. So the grooves have a role. They used to be U grooves. They were deeper. They could hold more debris, and players could spin the ball more. And when they changed that rule back and took some of the volume out of that, it takes some of the volume out of the debris that can go in, which the theory was it would take some of the spin out of the ball, which it does. But the purpose of the grooves is to take the debris away, let the ball stay on the face, roll up the face, and continue to spin.
Dean, you made my day, Dean. You really made my day.
This is great information. This is great information for you guys that are listening in. I mean, Dean, you mind if we go through your line real quick?
Yeah, no problem.
I've got the MTB Black up. What's that ball all about?
So the MTB Black is our flagship product. In my opinion, in golf, cast urethane covers, which are on the Titleist Pro V1, Pro V1X, and then the Taylormade TP5, TP5X. To me, that's the best cover in golf. We're able to cast it very thin, so when you can very soft. So when you can cast it thin and soft and put a firm mantle underneath it, that creates that pinch. So when you get close to the green, you have that pinch and short game spinning control, which gives the golf ball, in my opinion, better performance. When you use Surlins and thermoplastic urethanes, you have to make those covers thicker. That takes away some of that pinch, which takes away some of that short game spinning control. So our MTB Black is a 3-piece cast urethane cover, which to me is what's used on Pro V1, Pro V1X, TP5, TP5X, best cover in golf. So we don't cut any corners on the materials. The performance is outstanding, but our savings is we don't have big marketing budgets, big tour contracts. We sell direct to consumer. We do free shipping. So all the savings of paying for big overheads, tour contracts, marketing expenses, we pass all that savings back to the consumer. So if you play a Pro V1 golf ball, 3-piece cast urethane, or a Snell MTB Black 3-piece cast urethane, there's no difference in the cost side to it, but the big savings is coming back to you. Performance is outstanding, but the savings is passed back that we don't have to pay, 75 tour players each week, which is an expense, and we take that savings and pass it back to consumer.
Yeah, I know on the senior tour, because that's the only place I'm really, connected, is they're paying guys $15,000 plus all the balls you can hit.
Mm-hmm.
When you put on a little Titleist cap and
Yeah, it's expensive, and that's the senior tour. I can tell you on the PGA tour, some of those are multi-million-dollar contracts to play a ball and wear a hat. So we had 5 tour players last year call us and asked to play the ball. They tested head-to-head against the Titleist golf ball and said, we think it's better. So my response back was, I respectfully decline to pay you the money you're looking for. I'll supply them to you if you want, but you guys have putts on the 18th green worth $250,000. So if you think it's better, put your money where your mouth is, and I don't have to go pay you a big contract, and that means we have to raise the price to our customers. If you think it's better, you can use it, but we'll see how you feel. So I think you're going to see coming up in the upcoming years, you're going to see some players that will not take ball contracts be able to use whatever they want, because the ball contracts are getting smaller and smaller, and then that's our hope. But if it doesn't happen, it's okay. The performance we have is outstanding. The price we have is even better, and we're offering tour performance to all consumers at affordable price.
Now, Miguel Jimenez could probably trade you some Cuban cigars.
And maybe some aerobic exercises too.
Believe me, he doesn't do many aerobic exercises. Trust me. I know him. Anyway, the MTB Red.
Yeah, the MTB Red is a. So what I do every day is we're an internet business, so we sell direct to consumer. So we have a lot of websites that we get rated on or reviewed on. So I go on those every day and I read them all. So if someone does a performance review or writes something about it or has a comment about the golf ball, I take all those comments and I write them down. So I make a chart. So it will say needs to be lower, needs to be higher, needs to spin more, needs to spin less, needs to fly higher, fly lower, check more, check less. I write them down. And when a box gets filled, that's a voice. That's a voice to our customers. So we had one product called MTB, and I listened, and some of our customers said, geez, when I hit a full iron into the green, I need to spin more. I can't make it stop. Well, when we started this conversation earlier today, you guys talked about being able to control the spin with an iron into the green. Right. That's what I did with the MTB Black. It's not a real high spinning cast urethane golf ball. It's a control spin, but a whole bunch of our customers said, geez, I need a little more spin. So I added a fourth layer, urethane cover, and if you hit a golf shot into a green and it hits and releases with an 8-9 pitching wedge, that it releases, I added more spin to the MTB Red. So that would be MTB Red. If you hit a shot in and it holds and stops, that's the MTB Black. So we have two versions that were a result of the voice from our customers asking for more spin on approach shots into the green.
Now this is interesting. You have this test pack, MTB test pack.
Yeah. So this is like I say, my 30th year in golf, and my biggest pet peeve when I was at Taylormade was when our marketing group would say, hey, can we do 2-ball packs, and we want to pass them out to everybody. So you'd meet me on the first tee, I'd give you a 2-ball pack. Your first shot went in the woods and your second in the water, and the ball sucks. So it drove me crazy to say, if you really want someone to be able to test a golf ball, you can't give them 2 golf balls. So I created a test pack, which we have our MTB Black, MTB Red, which has 2 different levels of performance. And I make a card up, and I teach them in the card how to go out and test a golf ball. It goes in the pack. But now you have 6 golf balls of each. So you have a true number that can actually go out and do a true test and compare head to head. And we don't need to make money on it. It's the same price as the MTB Red and Black. We don't add any cost to it. But it allows you to now, if you're not sure which one fits your game or which one you like, here's 6 of each, and here's a way to test, and that's how we sell them.
Well, that's a great idea. That's a super idea, because you can't test with 2 balls. You
can't. My pet peeve is swing speed and 2-ball packs. That's what pulls the shirt over the head and throws the uppercuts.
Now, the yellow ball. I don't know how anybody plays with a yellow golf ball. I don't. I'm old. I've played a long time, and it's just hard for me to look down at a yellow ball.
Yeah, it's tough for me too, but it was a voice. So our customer base, the golf ball market in colored golf balls or yellow golf balls is about 10%. That's the whole market. And when you take that 10% golf ball market being yellow, the whole market's 10%. That means that most of the lower priced value golf balls which sell in yellow have the bigger part of it. So we have a customer base that asks, hey, geez, I love the ball, but if it was in yellow, it would be better. We made it in yellow. We offer it in yellow. It's about 10% of our sales, so it's not big, but it's still there, and it addressed a customer request that we had. So it's not a big deal for us to offer it. It's there, but it's not the biggest part of the market that's in golf today.
Just as long as you don't put a New England Patriots logo on it, but then I'm going to hit it in the water.
Yeah, we're going to stay away from that. We did a nice little. I thought it was a good idea. I said, hey, you know what? Red Sox are in the World Series.
Yeah.
Let's do a red sale. So we did a nice red sale for the World Series, and I got a lot of emails from people going, "Geez, I'm a Dodger fan, and that offends me." I'm like, "Buddy, you can buy it at the same price. I didn't say the Dodgers stink. I just said I'm a Red Sox fan, and here's a sale for you." So he said, "Okay, I got it." So he bought it. So I got a lot of notes on some of the orders. So every order that we get at Snell Golf, I print them and I sign them. I write a thank you note to everybody that buys from us, because I think it's important as a small business to stay in touch with the customer. So I go in at 5:30, I print the orders, I personally sign them, and then I help my team pack them. It's what I like to do, and so every single order that comes in, if I'm in house, I like to do that. And the notes, you can put a note section on your PO when you buy, and I read them and I'll make comments to them. And we had a couple of Dodger comments. I love it. It's fun. It's not taking a political stance. It's saying, hey, in Red Sox win the World Series, I'm going to give you $25.99 golf balls, and then you want to complain because I'm a Red Sox fan, but they still bought them.
No, I mean, in sports, and that's the one thing that's so missing. You need to shake the opponent's hand, look them in the eye, congratulate them, and just know, hey, I got to get better. If I'm going to beat this guy, I got to get better.
Exactly, and it was all in fun, And then we started another one today because we had so many people saying, "Geez, if the Red Sox win, can you do something for MTB Black?" So we sent out an email blast to our customers today on our website today. Instead of $31.99, it's $26.99 for all the black. So it's all good. Everybody benefits.
Now, is there any other ball that you make? I thought there was another ball you made that was a two-piece ball or something.
We do. We have, so, I mentioned hockey. So I played hockey, and I was out in San Diego for a while, and I played golf with my hockey buddies every Saturday, and they were awful. And one of the guys in our group, he couldn't hit the ball straight, but every time he'd hit the ball straight, he would look at us and go, "Yeah, get some of that." Like he'd get in our face. He finally hit a good shot.
I see it. So get some.
In a fun side, we created a two-piece golf ball called Get Some, which is kind of him, like, get some of that, where you get in your buddy's face and, you tell him to chase that or whatever you want to do. So we have a two-piece golf ball, very, very low compression, very soft. It's the softest golf ball we make, and it's kind of a fun golf ball. It's easy to play, low spin, high launch. It's a very soft feel. And again, not a biggest part of our sales side to it, but for the people that are just beginning or want to play or help you with the feel and the launch, that's why it's there for. And it comes in both white and yellow covers, and very affordable. Our value packs, which are 6 dozen, I think it comes out to about $14 a dozen, so very affordable.
Yeah, I like your value packs thing. You can get 6 dozen and a value pack.
Yeah, the value packs is interesting. So when we started the business 4.5 years ago, everybody bought 1 dozen because they wanted to try them. So we put a value pack together, which makes a huge savings for people, and that's our number one seller. So once people come in and try the dozen, they like the golf ball, then they come back and, on the MTB Black, which is $32 a dozen, our value packs, I think, are about $27 a dozen. So it takes $5 a dozen off, and a lot of people split them, or they work with their friends, and you take two, and so they buy them. They have a big savings, and you're getting a high-end Pro V1 type quality golf ball for just about half price.
All right, you're getting some questions from the peanut gallery here that they're typing in. I'm very impressed with Dean's knowledge, even though he's a New England Patriots fan. Listen, fantastic idea on the test back. What is the shelf life of a golf ball? Do they go bad?
They used to. So that's actually a good question. So wound golf balls, if you think in your mind, if you take 1 inch of thread and you stretch it 10 inches, that's the tension that used to be on wound golf balls. So when we made Tour Bellata or Professional, that's how much tension the thread would be under. So those centers were wound very tight. So what would happen over time is those threads would relax. So the ball speed would decrease. So there used to be a shelf life on wound golf balls that we would say about a year and a half, maybe 2 years max, because the threads would relax and the ball speed would slow down. Today, all the golf balls are solid. So, there's a core, there's a mantle that protects the core, and then a cover. So the ball speeds don't really lose any speed anymore. So the shelf life of golf balls today are well over 4 or 5 years. You don't have to worry unless they're kept in water, which nobody does. You're pretty safe to have them for quite a while.
Yeah, you haven't played in Cuba.
Yeah, I guess if it's humid, hot, or whatever, you got to be careful. But so here's another thing that for some of your customers that listen in, when golf balls go in the water, golf ball materials are hygroscopic, which means they suck water. So the cores are very hygroscopic. So most manufacturers try to protect that core layer, but if they're in there for periods of time and then you pull them out, two things could happen. One is they could be overweight and illegal, or the ball speed could be a lot slower because the cores have slowed down quite a bit. So when you think about these pond balls or these things, you don't know how long they've been there. If it's 2 weeks, you're okay, but if it's 2 months, you're probably not. The problem is you just don't know how long it's been. So you play a risk when you buy the pond balls. The covers themselves could hold some of that water and change some of the spin. So that's the reason why they're sold at half price, but you don't know what you're getting.
Now, what about the ones that say refurbished, where they spray them? I mean, if they put another coating on the golf ball, they ruin it, don't they?
They do, yeah. So when you do a golf ball design, the last thing you do is aerodynamics. So the aerodynamics, the depth, the edge angles, how many dimples, the shape of the dimples, the size of the dimples is all so important on the flight. And then the paint layer of the thickness of the paint, how much you put on it and how many coats are important. And that controls the distance. So if you go and refurbish them and you grind them down and then you put 2 coats of paint and you flood the dimples, those golf balls are going to fly much, much higher and a lot shorter than what the original design was meant to be.
When I was a kid growing up in the driving range, the old balata balls, when it got real hot in Miami in July and August, you could hear them pop. And then you go out there and there'd be rubber bands everywhere.
Yeah, the threads will snap, no question about it. And the balata used to be soft, so any thin shot, which is where the old ring gauges came from. People used to carry ring gauges for balata balls, so if the thread broke and it didn't go through a 1/6/86 ring gauge, you take it out of play because it was snapped and out of round, which was true. You don't see that anymore. They don't go out of round like that anymore because there's no thread. But you're right. That was a problem back on the old lawn ball days.
Yeah, I used to have the ring gauge, like you said, hanging from my bag, and we'd use the ball
popular.
3 holes. That's all we used the ball for. After 3 holes, it was gone.
Yeah, they go out around and very quick. Any kind of shot that would snap a thread would poke, sometimes not through the cover, but it would throw it out around, and then you have a perfect excuse when you miss that putt.
Art asks, do the balls dry out eventually?
So that's actually a good question. That there's another way to address it. The temperature of a golf ball is very, very important. So the golf ball performance is optimum between 70F and 90F. So if you leave your golf balls in your bag in your pro shop and you're in Wisconsin and it's 30 degrees and you go play and the golf ball's 30 or 40 degrees, you're going to lose significant ball speed and spin rate. Conversely, if you're in Phoenix and it's 110 degrees, you're going to lose ball speed because it softens and adds spin, so it's going to be a lot shorter. So I recommend to everybody, if you're going to play golf tomorrow, bring the golf balls in your house, keep them at 70 degrees, and then when you go play, you put them in your pocket and rotate a couple through. And even though it might be 40 degrees when you're playing, the balls will never get to 40, so your performance is going to be closer to what you're expecting. But if they're left in your bag and left in a car or your pro shop, it could be a big, big difference in performance. Drying outside to it, if they're wet, trying to get the moisture out of the center of the core would be very, very difficult to do. So the biggest way to test is by weight. So we make golf balls to the maximum weight the USGA allows, right to the limit. So if they go in the water and they're added weight, usually those golf balls become illegal because they're too heavy. They've gained weight and they're over the limit.
Dave Morgan asks, where are the balls manufactured?
Where are they?
Yeah, your golf balls, where do you make them?
Yeah, so for us, we use the cast urethane side to it. So the cast urethane technology is only made in 3 factories. Titleist has it, Taylormade has it in South Carolina, and then overseas. So we have factories in Korea, Taiwan, and China, but top of the line golf balls are made at our factory in Korea. We give them the specs. They make the golf balls to our specs. So we have a quality guy in-house that reviews the specs before they're released, and then we ship the golf balls into Boston. We pick them up, and then we ship them out to the U.S.
Where there's so much happening in Korea. It's amazing.
Yeah, so
go ahead.
And remember on the golf ball side to it, Titleist has factories in Thailand, Callaway's in Taiwan and Mexico, Taylormade's in Taiwan, China, and Korea. So every manufacturer has some kind of manufacturing going overseas somewhere. And Titleist still has a U.S. factory, and TaylorMade still has a U.S. factory. Bridgestone is in Georgia and Japan. So every big company has something overseas that can manufacture golf balls. And I worked probably the last 15 years that I was with TaylorMade to try to help the manufacturing processes overseas to make their quality and their production be better. It's not that we don't want the factories to be in the U.S., but they don't have the technology in the U.S. to do it. So if I could go to, Maryland tomorrow, I would do it, but it doesn't exist. Nobody in the U.S. makes cast urethane except Titleist and TaylorMade. And if I went to Titleist tomorrow, they probably wouldn't say, yeah, we'll make golf balls for you.
I can just see some of the testing when they test the golf balls. Oh, look, what's the ball go very far. Oh, it's very low.
Wrong club.
All right, Darren, do you have anything else to ask him? Anybody else got a? Oh, here's one from Larry. Larry has a question here. How long should you keep playing a ball, assuming that you hit it once in a while?
So what's happened in the tour side to it is, when I was with Titleist, the tour bought a lot of golf balls. They used to go out a round and in a couple of bad shots. When I went to TaylorMade, it used to be the average person would play about 3 or 4 balls per round. So now it's gone to the urethane covers, the solid construction, and now I got some people that say I play it, 72 holes, 96 holes. It really pushing it. The golf balls will if you play it and the cover is not damaged, if the dimples are not damaged, you can keep playing it. What happens a lot is the more and more you play it, and I've seen this happen quite a bit where people say the ball cracked. If you go to simulators where people tee it up and hit it into a net over and over on the same spot, they're going to crack. They're not made to go 100 holes hit on the same spot. They're not made to do that because most people would lose them. So we try to design the performance into it with the durability that used to be all about shear and damage with a wedge. Now you have to design it with shear and how many holes people play. So I think if you play a golf ball 18 holes, you're very fortunate that you kept the same ball for 18 holes, and you're still okay. If the dimples aren't damaged, the paint's not scraped off, the performance of the golf ball will still be good.
Well, Darren, tell me about the stickiness factor.
Well, yeah, I stumbled on that by accident. I was doing a project for TrackMan with face tape versus foot powder versus dry erase marker. And what I did was I started with a box of quality range balls, and just a case. And I started to hit some balls right out of the case, and I noticed that my spin rate was a lot higher than I typically had with my driver. And it was because it came straight out of the box, straight out of the case. It was a lot stickier than a ball that's been hit once or twice. So it was a real accident. But I think a lot of people who go to the first tee, they take a ball right out of their bag, right out of the box. It's going to perform a little different than a ball that's been used 2 or 3 holes. Do you agree with that, Dean?
You're talking about a test you did with range balls, or you're talking a test you did with some manufacturers top line?
With Pro V range balls.
Yeah, so typically the finishing system on the golf balls, if the paint is cured, then the stickiness of the golf ball shouldn't be a factor. What happens sometimes is the urethane paint system, the curing side to it can take sometimes quite a while. It can be sometimes 7 days, 14 days, depending on how it was cured through the system. But if you play a golf ball that's fully cured and the paint system's fully cured on a top manufacturer's golf ball, the spin rates of the golf ball shouldn't change over time unless you're taking the paint layer off with some other club, especially drivers. Drivers shouldn't change. Range golf balls, if you play in a range golf ball that someone sells as a range ball, that's a completely different story. Those golf balls have a different paint system on them. When you play a range golf ball, we do it for durability. It's an overspray. It's an excess amount of paint, and it's a more durable paint. So that spin rate side to it. Also with range golf balls, they don't have the specs of the same. So if you have a spec on a core for a manufactured golf ball, it might be plus or minus 4, but the range golf balls don't have specs on them. So you could be plus or minus 18. So your spin rate on something that's 18 points higher is going to be significantly higher than something that's 18 points lower. Yeah, so it depends. If you're just testing a range golf ball, I wouldn't put any value to what you're finding. But if you tested a manufacturer's dozen to dozen, you shouldn't see big differences in spin rates.
But you shouldn't put your ball in the ball washer, should you? You know, the little thing that goes up and down. I always clean it off with a towel only.
You can put them in those wallets. The urethane paint side to it's pretty durable. If it can take the shot of a wedge and not take spin off, that little brush that's inside of a ball washer should be okay to clean the dirt and stuff off of it. I wouldn't think, and I'll be honest with you, I've never tested that, but I would never think that a ball washer would change the spin rate of a first top of the line manufactured golf ball. Range golf balls, I put zero value in any testing because they use old cores, old materials, and a different paint system. So those specs, they don't have any. You could hit a range ball that could spin 8,000 RPMs with an 8-iron or 4,000 RPMs with an 8-iron in the same group because there aren't any specs on them.
Well, we've used them. Go ahead.
What does that say for? What does that say for the average golfer hitting balls at the range? Should they pay much attention to the plate?
Yeah, pay zero attention to distances, I would say. Most of the range balls on ranges, half of the dimples are gone, so most of them will knuckle or fly funny. But I would say use the range balls at the range to warm up, to get your swings in, but don't do any fittings at all ever with a range ball. Don't go on a TrackMan system and try to fit a driver or a set of irons with any range balls. If someone's going to try to sell you clubs, they're so expensive. Do it the right way. So if irons are $800,000 for irons. If you're going to spend that money on them, then take the time to make sure you test the irons you want to play with the ball you play. Don't do it with a range ball at all. It's the same thing with a driver. If you're going to take the time to fit with a driver, never, ever, ever test with a range ball. Make the guy put a net up and hit your own ball into the net, and make sure your adjustments and your fitting side to it are with the ball you play, not with a range ball.
Well, we've used up a lot of your time, Dean. I'll tell you what, we owe you big time. This was terrific. I learned a lot. You know, there's even little things that you do I've done for so many years. I've like always clean the ball off with a wet towel. I mean, you never put it in the ball machine. You say that's for hot dogs that don't know any better. You got to wear the cover off, but
those little brushes won't do that. But I'll tell you, if you're ever doing any testing, and you guys sound like you do some testing side too. If you're ever doing spin rate testing, 2 things to do: clean the ball before you hit it, and clean your club face before you hit it, because those 2 factors control spin. And that's what we do when we go work on new designs. That's what we make sure we do to make sure we get the true performance of the ball. If you have any dirt or someone hits a fat shot and there's mud on it, his next shot's spin rates are going to be off because it changes the whole design of the club when it's not a clean face. So clean the ball, clean the club, and then get your numbers. But use manufactured golf balls that you play, not range balls.
Well, we highly recommend anybody. I've got the site up here. To go to snellgolf.com, get yourself some golf balls, get that trial pack. I think that's a great idea. So you try both balls and see. you know.
I agree. It's a nice way. There's a little card in there that will teach you how to truly test golf balls, where they're different. Off the tee, everything's going to be the same. We're maxed out with the USGA on distance, but from 100 yards and in, that's where they're different. So two-piece golf balls will have half the spin and twice the launch of tour balls, and you need to say which one you want. Are you okay with the high launch bump and run, or do you want that low check shot? That's where they're different, and that's where you should test them.
When you put the personal card in there, just put in there, tell that Cuban the Dolphins stink.
Some things are better off left unsaid.
Say, tell Darren the Jets stink.
Yeah. So do you.
I got no comment on that at all.
So do you.
Hey, so do you. Yeah, you jerk. Hey, thanks a lot, partner, and I hope it brings you a little business. But even if it doesn't, what you've done for us tonight is fantastic. I mean, we owe you big time.
We owe you.
No problem. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, guys. Have a good night.
All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something from that. And you go to snellgolf.com, it's right up here on the slate, and you get yourself some golf balls and get that trial pack and see how you like them. Good night, everybody.
Hi, Bobby. Good night.
Thanks, Bobby. All right. Good stuff.
Thanks, Bobby.
Good night, Bobby.
Thank you, Bobby.
Thank Darren. He set it up.
Darren, thanks.
Thanks, Darren.
Thanks, Darren.